Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss how to put a racing mind to sleep. Most INTJs, if not all, will run into the problem of lying down to go to sleep and the brain refuses to shut down. I have mentioned before that one night I hit the bed after working for hours on my book, only to end up getting hooked into a scene, and instead of going to sleep, I wrote out the entire next chapter in my head before I finally could drop off to sleep. The next morning I got up and typed it out. I have always been a heavy sleeper, so once I am asleep, I am hard to wake up. However, over the years I've had several things that made getting to sleep difficult. Probably the most interesting cause I ran into was on the USS John F. Kennedy, CV-67, an aircraft carrier. My rack was located in the forward part of the ship, right between the two catapults for the F-14 to launch. And it seemed that they loved to have flight operations just when I was getting set to go to sleep. First, one catapult would launch a plane on the starboard side of me, then the other would launch off to the port side of me. I could hear the loud slide of the catapult action, and when it hit the end stop, it would be boom! The entire ship would vibrate. Earplugs were useless, because the ship vibrated so badly it came right through anyway. The first night I just lay there and wondered how anyone could sleep in this noise. But in a few nights I was sleeping like a baby and completely tuned it out. You can get used to almost anything in time. However, after I thought I was all set for sleeping on the carrier, we got back home after the cruise and they decided they were going to refurbish our berthing space. So we were moved aft to an area right between the huge pulleys they use for the landing cables. I think this was even worse. Planes would come in, and I could hear the tail hook of the plane hit the deck and bounce, and then it would hook one of the three cables running across the flight deck. At least hopefully it would. If it failed to hook, it was called a bolter, and the pilot always assumed this would happen, and so he ran his engines up to maximum for a takeoff just in case. He only shut it down after he was sure he was held and stopped by the cable. The thick metal cables were extremely noisy when they were pulled out by a plane. They gave out cable from the spool in order to bring the plane to a stop safely without splattering the pilot all over the cockpit windshield. The pulleys gave out cable begrudgingly, and it was loud. It was not systematic like the catapults, because it was slightly different each time. It wasn't always the same cable that got grabbed, and it was a huge feat just landing on that tossing deck for a jet going so fast. So naturally, no two pilots landed in exactly the same spot on the deck. Those guys were amazing. I put some links below in the description with videos of F-14 Tomcats taking off and landing. It's cool stuff. These photos are two of the very few I have of me on the ship. I plan to discuss them in a later video suggested by a commenter about the INTJ in a structured military environment. For now, I just wanted to show myself on the ship, both in the hangar bay and on the flight deck. By way of explanation, my friend asked Richard Jekyll if he would pose for a photo with him, and the actor happily agreed. You can see that Mr. Jekyll has his arm through my friend's arm. A good actor knows how to demonstrate an idea visually. I was unexpectedly invited into the photo by Mr. Jekyll, and my friend didn't object to my being in the photo. In fact, he gave me a copy of the photo later since it was his camera that was being used. An episode of a TV show called Super Carrier was being filmed on the ship at that time, and that is why all this happened. I can't imagine walking up to an actor and asking for a photograph or an autograph. The thought would never cross my mind. And I was perfectly happy to stand to one side as my friend got his picture taken. I'm still surprised that I ended up in that photo. Back to getting to sleep. As you could tell from my discussion of the photo, when my mind gets moving along a path that finds many tempting alternate branches to choose from, I had to intentionally restrain myself to stay on topic. When I relax at night, it is just like that. My mind wants to run free like a stallion cut loose in a pasture. A few years after my battle with trying to sleep in a noisy shipboard environment, as a civilian again, I attended a seminar where the presenter suggested that the way to disengage your brain for sleep was to count backwards from 100, but he wanted us to do it in an odd way. 100 and 0, 99 and 1, 98 and 2. Always moving downward from the top and upwards from the bottom and creating a sum of two numbers that equal 100. That didn't work for me at all. My brain will engage almost any task, and playing with numbers is something I do for fun anyway. I got all the way down to 0, 100, and then said, now what? Counting anything doesn't work for me, sheep included. If I had a day of hard physical exertion, that normally will help me to drop off to sleep quickly. And that was a big help on the ship, by the way. Life on a big ship is filled with exercise. You sleep on one deck, you eat on another, you meet in your shop on another, and then you do your job on one or more other decks. You're going up and down ladders all day long. Aerobically, it is way better than going to a gym. However, if my day is filled up primarily with mental activity, which is very common, I need a trick to disengage. I'm sure there are many possible solutions to this problem, and please feel free to put your own in the comments below. What I do is to lie on my back with my eyes closed and take a deep breath, and then I hold it for a moment, and then I let it out slowly. And as I let it out, I think, relax. To derail my brain from whatever it might be working on, and I swear my brain has a separate mind of its own, if that makes sense to you, I picture a control room of a small spaceship where I'm sitting, and all around me are stars in inky blackness. With each deep breath that I let out slowly, the stars become brighter and the control room fades as I move forward, farther and farther, until I am entirely outside of the ship, and it is just me and the stars. Bit by bit, my racing mind engages this image, which requires no complexity. There is no goal to reach other than simply becoming one with the cosmos. Gently floating in space, the deep breathing relaxes my muscles and removes any tension I might be feeling. And usually the next thing I know, it's time to get up in the morning. I use this often, and it is usually highly effective. Now, while you're doing this, you don't want to get distracted thinking about a fox you saw today, or your favorite theme park. If space isn't your thing, you might prefer a waterfall, a river, a field of flowers, or a forest. Perhaps a view of the ocean rolling onto a deserted beach. Maybe even floating in the middle of the ocean with nothing but blue sky and a sea of glass around you. Anything could work, as long as it has a simple theme that will tie up your brain, but will not send it into another racing path of calculation and analysis. Your goal is to quiet the brain, so keep it simple. The slow, deep breathing will help your entire body to relax. You want to avoid hyperventilation, so spacing the deep breaths out is important. But your body likes to breathe. In karate class, my sensei spent a lot of time on emphasizing the importance of breathing. And as is usually the case with things you learn, what applies in one area also applies in other areas. A lot of it connected up directly with my high school voice lessons, where I first learned to breathe from the diaphragm. And of course, I found that it also helps with sleeping. This is just a simple technique, but I am pretty sure that many people, especially INTJs, will find it useful. I know this was short, but I feel it is important. If you agree, please hit like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Sweet dreams, and I'll see you next time.